462nd best male swimmer, best female swimmer, NCAA champion. Do you see a problem with that?
Are you suggesting that she transitioned to a woman to get better at swimming?
Of course. And we shouldn't allow that to happen.
Why would you transition yourself just to become better at a sport? Who does that?
Because you're a narcissist. That's why. Because it's like saying, why would anyone steal anything? Why would anyone cut in line? People do bad things. It's not up to us as society to accommodate the rules for your impulses to go do bad things.
You're crazy. Okay,
so do you not believe in racism?
Of course racism exists. The Democrat Party is still alive and well.
Do you think people are racist against white people?
All the time. All the time.
That's his definition.
Affirmative action is racism against white people. Yes.
Okay.
And Asians as well.
And Asians, that's right.
So I do have a question in that sense. If affirmative action is racism, why are most colleges predominantly white?
Why are they most predominantly white?
Why are most colleges, public colleges, are predominantly white?
We're a majority white country. You realize that, right? So colleges are the depiction of the nation.
Okay.
And actually, blacks on campus are disproportionate more than their population in certain areas, in certain campuses, than their population.
Why is the increasing IRS agents, which are taxes that belong to us, they help pay for things like roads, GPS, infrastructure, basic things that you and yourself needed to get here. Why would that be so bad, having everyone pay their fair share of taxes so we can have a government that functions correctly? Well, obviously, government doesn't work for everything, but we all benefit from government services every day.
I'm sorry, no one in this room is going to benefit from 87,000 new IRS agents. Instead, those 87,000 new IRS agents are going to be deployed against small business owners. But
what's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. Today, guys, we're back here into a new video. Today, we're going to check out 1 hour of Charlie Cake roasting everybody. This is going to be incredible. From socialists to liberals to left wing to Democrats. Every single person is going to roast everybody. This is going to be incredible to watch. I would love to check the video out. You guys, some of you have actually not seen some of this clip. According to Charlie Cake, because he loves kicking us. Let's get right into today's video, guys.
Hey, Charlie. I was told to keep it short, so I will. Okay. So you touched on LGBTQ rights a lot. You've talked about, trans bathrooms, you getting banned from Twitter. Very, awful. But I'm wondering if I can get a straight answer, yes or no. Do you think the acceptance of queer people in society is a good thing?
Well, define acceptance and define queer, because when I grew up, that was like a slander. So I don't know, that's like a thing now.
Queer being lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and what was the other word you asked me to define? What do you mean
acceptance? What do you mean?
Acceptance being that, society, accepts that, doesn't try to change that, doesn't try to say that it's not a social, like it's not a good thing for you to be gay, it's not a good thing for you to be trans, and in our institutions also just offering them resources to, just come to terms with their sexuality, not feel bad about it. Basically, by acceptance, I generally mean society shouldn't make people feel bad about who they are. So, do you agree with that?
No. I mean, we should feel bad about all sorts of things. So, I mean, yeah, happy to get the mic back up. But, I mean, I'll just ask you a very simple question, and this will tell, what is a woman?
A woman is someone who identifies as a woman.
Got it.
Yeah, we're good again.
So do you think a definition of someone able to become pregnant would be a woman?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So if someone can become pregnant, would that person be defined as a woman?
Depends on if they identify as a woman.
Right. So, okay, we're now getting to the root of the issue. So do you believe that truth is objective or subjective? Do you believe in absolute truth?
Sure.
Okay.
So if you believe in absolute truth, shouldn't we have absolute terms of what a infant-bearing or infant-birthing person is, otherwise known as a woman?
No.
Okay. So let me ask you this a different way, I suppose. So if anyone can identify at anything at any time, correct?
Anyone can identify
as a woman or a man, you can just choose at any time, right?
Gender? Well,
sure.
Gender identity isn't switching genders all the time. It just depends,
But that's your position, right? That's fair to say? That you could change your gender?
My position is that you should accept people's gender identity, and you shouldn't try to shame them out of it.
So let me ask you, should we accept people that think they're younger than they actually are?
Perfect question.
Because that's a mental condition where people say, I identify as an 8-year-old, but they're really 50. Should we accept someone be able to say they're younger?
No, but I think that's a very false equivalence.
Why is it a false equivalence?
Because there's scientific research supporting that gender identity is something that is, there's scientific research that supports people and says that if you identify as a certain gender, then that is like your gender. There's this paper on Scientific American that I found very interesting that said, like, you know, it has to do with like your brain formation in the womb, where gender identity forms, but it's different from sex. That's very different from a disorder where you say, I'm not actually my age, because...
Well, hold on. You just agreed with me. You said it's a brain formation issue. It's a brain formation...
I didn't say it was a disorder.
Well, so you don't think transgenderism is a disorder?
No.
What is gender dysphoria?
Gender dysphoria is when you're very uncomfortable with your own body, and that usually relates to gender, and that can usually be treated if you choose to transition to...
Right, so it's a mental condition, right?
That's, well, gender dysphoria is, but transgenderism is not.
What's the difference?
The difference between gender dysphoria and transgenderism?
Yes.
Being transgender means that you don't identify with the gender you're born with. Gender dysphoria means you're uncomfortable with your body.
How confusing
Two
could that be?
different things.
No, so you cannot be quote-unquote transgender without suffering from gender dysphoria.
True.
So let me ask you one more question. So you believe that we can dictate pronouns. Can I choose my adjectives? Can I decide to be like super rich? Or like, can I decide to be small? Like, is there anything objective that we have to actually admit? Or can you just change anything at any time?
I think people should have the right to determine their pronouns. And I don't think...
No, how about adjectives?
I don't think people actually do that, so I don't know
They
why
do.
that's something you're...
Well, of course, like if someone says, I declare I'm rich, is no longer than saying I'm declare I'm a man. Your chromosomes aren't that way. You don't get to choose what your reality is, do you?
Gender identity is reality.
Okay, so anyone could be anything. Let me ask, how about species reality? Can I change my species?
No.
Why?
Not.
There's people that identify as cats and dogs all the time. It's a serious mental condition. It is. It's treated all the time.
True.
Tens of thousands of cases every single year. So basically, if you believe in absolute truth, which you say you do, why wouldn't you believe in absolute truth when it comes to chromosomal structure?
Because gender and chromosomal sex are two different things.
That's right, according to your opinion. Got it. So,
Okay,
but now,
that's
now you want to
actually-
impose that opinion on the rest of society, right? You can have whatever opinion you want. Here's our position. That opinion should now not apply to all of a sudden saying that men and women's sports should be conflated. Final question. Did you find a moral problem with the University of Pennsylvania swimmer changing from a man to a woman and winning the NCAA championship, defeating other women?
Well, I'm not familiar, but I'm pretty sure that the NCAA has some rules that makes it so people who transition have, like, you know, kind of a competitive, fair thing. So I haven't done much research into those rules, but
Yeah, okay. So
usually they
let
make
me
it
catch
so...
you up to speed. 462nd best male swimmer, best female swimmer, NCAA champion. Do you see a problem with that?
Are you suggesting that she transitioned to a woman to get better at swimming?
Of course.
Yeah, that's what happened.
And we shouldn't allow that to happen
Why
because...
would you transition yourself just to become better at a sport? Who
Because
does
you're a
that?
narcissist. That's why. Because it's like saying, why would anyone steal anything? Why would anyone cut in line?
naive.
People do bad things. It's not up to us as society to accommodate the rules
True.
for your impulses to go do bad things. Last question. Do you think there's differences between men and women?
Was this the actual last question?
Yeah, last. I'm curious. No, I'm curious because I can't believe you're paying for this. It's like so interesting.
Well, there are actual differences between men and women, yes, in terms of, you know, chromosomes, as you mentioned. So, yeah, sure.
Okay, so therefore we agree that men and women have differences. We should define society around those differences. And one of those differences is that women they have lower testosterone levels, and they could be easily exploited by men, which is what happens far too often. And it's incumbent on men who have higher testosterone levels, who are physically stronger, to protect women against the exploitation of men who think they are women. That's a moral question and a moral question. Thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, so one thing I want to start off with is, why does your opinion trump over any other people's opinion?
Right, so do you believe that there is a truth out there?
Everything is subjective, but there is a right or wrong morally, especially when you're in a cultured society that is based off a set of standards and norms that we act on and we act as.
So everything is subjective. So is it objectively true you and I are having a conversation right now?
Yes.
So that's not subjective then. So not everything is subjective.
So why do you believe morals?
Right. So something is objective.
Yes, but why do you believe your subjective opinion
gonna get
trumps
there.
over other people's opinion?
Right.
That
Well, let me
you
ask you
are,
another
like,
question.
right
I'll
in
tell you.
this-
I will
no,
answer.
please don't interrupt me. You can no. Let me finish my sentence. I do not want to hear it. You think that your opinion is over other people's opinions. You think you were right subjectively.
Okay.
What is right or wrong?
Okay. Is murder wrong?
Yes, of course.
Well, then abortion should
Not
be
in
illegal.
every case.
Answer
What,
to
what,
question.
what constitutes a human? What is a human?
Deoxyribonucleic acid and conception.
But to me, a
forming
human
it.
would be someone with a consciousness who is alive in this world.
Well,
To
guess
you,
what? You're wrong. So
but
that's
no,
fine.
you're
Yeah,
wrong
right.
because
She's
I
wrong.
think that's right, and you think that's
Prove
right.
me. Prove it wrong.
What constitutes a human being? What is the
So if
definition
you
of a
take
human
DNA
being?
and
The creation of DNA that will never exxt again, and a soul goes into that moment. I don't expect you guys.
What's a soul?
A soul?
What's a soul?
What is a soul?
What is a soul?
The eternal, indistinguishable, let's just say, non-visible being of your existence.
I don't believe that. I don't
Well,
believe anything
I'm
is
sorry-
eternal.
I'm sorry you don't believe
argue
it.
that
But does not make yours okay.
Yeah, you
Well, hold on a
your opinion
second.
isn't
At
like
some,
over
here's the thing.
mine.
At some point, somebody's truth has to win. Because guess what? Your
In
truth doesn't matter.
But
That's
guess
still
what?
a truth
You've had
claim.
your truth in this country for the past thousands of decades. You're
Thousands of
not
decades.
thousands. Whatever. that's a little embarrassing. But
good.
like your truth has been the narrative of this country forever.
Has
and
it?
you think
Roe
yes,
versus
the
Wade
white
just
straight
got
male truth-
repealed. Abortion was legal in this country for 40 years.
And before the 40 years, what was
And
it?
crime dropped
Thankfully illegal in
40%
most
after it
And
went.
on top of that, do you
Became-
Oh
not
wait, hold
think-
on. Do you think abortion lowers crime rates?
Crime dropped
100%.
40% after abortion became
Why,
legal.
why is that the case?
It's called a statistic.
Who has the most abortions in America?
Black people.
Woman.
Black people. Is that
Black
so? Are you
women.
trying to say the termination of blacks in the womb lower crime? That's a very racist argument.
That is not a
Okay.
You know blacks have 45% of the
I would suggest using African American.
blacks. What? Okay.
Sir, that's a leading question.
Huh?
Sir, that's a leading question.
You guys can come up and talk if you want. Yeah, it's 95 degrees out here, man. So, yes, sir.
That's a racist. Okay.
No, you're the racist. You're the says that abortion lowers crime rates and blacks have the most abortions in the country. Yes.
I believe it's subjective.
It's not name calling. Wait, is it not Black Lives Matter or is it African American Lives Matter? It's both. Oh, really? Okay, I thought it was BLM, so I say blacks. Okay.
He was just okay, not too much, Andrew. Do you believe that you have some sort of privilege that skews your view on other people's lives? Because personally, I don't believe you could step in my shoes as a black woman and relate and understand the things. So I feel like it's not fair for you to choose what I get to do with my life because I'm a black woman in a white society.
What does being black have to do with truth?
Because there are different things that we experience,
Like what?
and my truth might not be your truth.
What, did you get into college easier than I do?
What?
Affirmative action.
Yes, you get jobs and internships that white kids don't get.
Yeah.
Oh, we're poor white people.
You have entire movements dedicated to your race.
We're so like.
Okay.
Sir, do you remember the
Those
novel?
movements are to get riots. You're crazy. Okay,
So,
salt.
do you not believe in racism?
Of course racism exists. The Democrat Party is still alive and well.
Do you think people are racist against white people?
All the time. All the time.
That's his definition.
Affirmative
of
action is
racism.
racism against white people. Yes.
Okay.
And Asians as well.
And Asians, that's right.
So I do have a question in that sense. If affirmative action is racism, why are most colleges predominantly white?
Why are they most predominantly white?
Why are most colleges, public colleges, are predominantly
Yeah,
white?
we
I'm
are
talking to you,
we're a
okay?
majority white country. You realize that, right? So colleges are the depiction of the nation.
Okay.
And actually, blacks on campus are disproportionate more than their population in certain areas, in certain campuses, than their population because of affirmative action.
In HBCUs? Is that what
Certain
you're talking
campuses.
About? Are you talking about HBCUs?
So, but let me just ask a more broad philosophical question. Why does skin color matter at all? Why should we care about it?
Because of the society we live in. Because
hold on,
of the
but
society
no.
You're dismissing anything that has ever happened to someone of color
Let me ask
by
you a
saying
question.
that.
What can you do, or what can I do that you can't do?
Explain
What
how
law?
affirmative action works. Explain how
Affirmative action is lowering of tests, standards, and quota for a
Wrong.
quota.
You're an idiot.
No, it's
I'm
not.
gonna tell you
It's
how
the way
it
it works.
I'm gonna tell you how it works. 'cause I read
Yeah,
it.
it's the way it works.
I'm
I'm
gonna tell you
not
how
going to
it
entertain
works.
fallacies.
No,
Tell me,
you won't
why?
entertain me because I.
Just let him
Why-
talk. We got to hear your
It's
fallacies.
fine.
Why
It's
does
fine.
skin color matter?
Let him talk. Well, don't
I
call him an idiot.
believe skin
Be
color
respectful.
matters
He's being
because of the
respectful.
society
He's not
we
being
are
respectful.
in.
Do you know how
And
this
I
shit
guess
works?
it goes
It's called
into critical
rights.
race theory.
Removing
Yes, it
rights
is.
Because of the
disrespectful.
society we have
I'll
lived
do it
in,
too.
race is a factor. If from the beginning of time race wasn't a factor, and there was never anybody who was oppressed because of their race, I feel like it would not play a part in anything that we do. But because literally less.
Charlie.
They were interrupting you. I was.
Do you believe on black crime?
Do I believe in black on black crime?
Yeah.
It's abundant.
Explain, please.
Yeah, it's the number one cause of death in many black communities. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like,
He is right.
Glad they're accepting the truth.
So back to our previous argument that was interrupted. So in the sense of what, like I was saying, you don't believe like because of the history and because races have been oppressed, you don't believe like race plays a part in things, and you don't believe like.
no, that's not true. No. So, do you know who Thomas Sowell is? You know who Thomas Sowell is?
No.
I really encourage you to look. Thomas Sowell's great. He's one of the best black economists of the 20th century. Grew up in Harlem, and he's done the best research in the 1940s, 1950s, and 60s black community. And essentially, his argument is that black America was experiencing a renaissance in the 50s and 60s, despite discrimination.
True.
Yes. Now, the one part that I would agree with,
But however, it's not the black community as a whole; it's Harlem black community.
there were Chicago too, but let's pretend you're right, okay? The one argument that I would agree with, and I'm against systemic racism arguments, the one that I would say, you know what, there was something very wrong, is when Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson came in and destroyed the black nuclear family. If there was one part where I could say, you know what, that was unjust and that has to be undone, it's when Lyndon Baines Johnson went in through the Great Society program with the intent to destroy the black nuclear family.
Okay. So in that sense, do you believe the war on drugs also played a part? Or
Not
do you not
really.
believe in
No.
the war on drugs?
Well, look, I mean, I believe we should be very harsh on drugs, but I think I would give some merit to the argument of some government agencies peddling cocaine in the inner cities. There is evidence to show that. I'm not going to debate it. Do I think it has so for example, like there's one number that I'm fascinated with, right? Single motherhood in the black community was about 28% in 1945. Okay? Now it's around 65 to 70%. Why? Are we more racist than we were in 1945?
No.
Okay. So then what happened?
The war on drugs.
Okay,
the
fair
war
enough.
on drugs. The demolishing the nuclear family in a sense.
Right,
And
we
I
agree.
believe due to the history that's happened, racism is still very prevalent in a lot of this a lot of the systems that are in America, correct?
Yeah. So no, of course not. But I was actually caught by your shirt. You know, Malcolm X was super pro-life.
Yes.
I think Malcolm X could teach a lot of the black movement something, because more so than Martin Luther King, because Malcolm X, I'm getting there. Malcolm X, some people don't describe him correctly as being violent, right? That was a very small part of his literature. He was very big on trying to get black America to succeed despite despite the white liberal.
Yes.
And
not the white liberal.
He did say white liberal. Oh, you go look up the Malcolm X white liberal quote. And so I think that's interesting. Just think about it. Go look up what Malcolm X warned against white liberals owning black America for their own gain, which is exactly what BLM is.
Okay, so back to my initial point. Back to my initial point. You don't believe that my truth can be different than yours, specifically based on race.
Experiences can be different, but there is always a truth. I'll give you an example. We all might have 5 different opinions of a car crash, right? But eventually a truth will be revealed of what really happened. Does that make sense?
So you believe that your truth is the truth that you have found yourself is the ultimate truth.
I would hope so. Yeah. And I'm willing to learn.
And then make America great again.
Otherwise,
I
think Malcolm X could teach us a lot right now. Yes.
What do you think about like the 1960s and 70s militarization of the police, the shift in the police?
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally very pro-police. What about the military? I mean, the question is what came first, and I honestly don't know the answer. Was it the rise in crime, or was it the police that went into the inner?
If you knew what you were talking about, you would know the answer.
Yeah, it's not so clear, because there was a massive crime wave in the early 1970s in New York, where a lot of New Yorkers demanded more police with heavier weaponry and the ability to enforce the law.
And post-militarization of the police, crime went up.
And then it went down in the 80s. Violent crime went big time down.
Well, let's talk about the 10 years right after. What happened there? What do you think happened?
So you're drawing a correlation between police officers being militarized and more people committing crimes.
Over militarization of the police, yes. Is
Why?
Not exactly more people committing crimes, more people being arrested for crimes
Okay.
and put into jail or minor
Yeah, I mean,
crimes.
I can't disagree with that.
The prison system, I mean, we account for.
Yeah, I mean, why do people go to prison, right? Because they commit crimes. So.
I want to say, by starting off, I was told by your wonderful assistant over here that I should tell you that I disagree with almost everything. Obviously, we have not had a 2-hour conversation. So, like,
Almost
who knows?
is big.
Who knows? Maybe we had a few beers. We agree on something, but
I'll have
now,
water. You can have whatever you want.
All I've heard is stuff that I'm just like, what? First, I want to say that I guess as the first 2 hours of your speech was you complaining about kind of these leftists and kind of this, but I've never heard any policy positions. When I go to something like a Senator Sanders convention or someone on the left, they're going to talk about healthcare, inequality, inflation, growth, but you guys all seem to want to talk about is how the left does this or the left does that, but no policies on how to fix anything. So I guess that kind of goes with my first question is, what is the GOP's actual position when it comes to fixing inflation?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I'm not a senator, nor am I aspiring to be one. Number two, yes, I was mildly distracted by the windows being broken and the terrorists outside. I fully acknowledge that, okay? So I was a little policy shallow tonight and a little bit terrorist deep, okay? I will admit that. Third, I'll say this. I don't speak for the GOP, right? I have my own ideas, and
I like that.
I actually think the GOP does a terrible job. But let me give you some ideas that I think you might agree with, okay? I think that vital products should be made in America, not in China. And we should use tariffs and sanctions to get it done. Vitamin C, penicillin, critical infrastructure should be manufactured here. I think American college graduates should be given preference to go work for American companies above foreign workers. And that means reforming the H-1B system and actually giving you, the American college-educated kids, a preference because we have a moral obligation to our own citizens over the citizens of another country. I think we should fully close the United States southern border. I think we should not allow illegal...
I just want to interrupt you. Sorry. You were saying you're for a government program that puts American college students. So
reforming the immigration system, right, so that big companies like Facebook don't do quasi-indentured servitude to bring foreign workers in and be able to compete
that would be a government program that would do that.
Well, yeah, the government program actually already exists.
Okay, so you're actually a conservative who's for increasing the government size, not for decreasing.
Well, no, I want a small but strong government, so I want things that are smart. For example, I'd love to have more Border Patrol agents and less IRS agents. So where it makes sense to increase the volume of government agents, as long as it is pursuing a couple things that are core to my philosophy. A strong country that has borders, sovereignty, culture, and maintains a moral commitment to its citizens, that you should be able to work hard, play by the rules, be able to have a family, own a home, and see rising income and wages. Those are very basic things in a social contract.
Why is the increasing IRS agents, which are taxes that belong to us, they help pay for things like roads, GPS, infrastructure, basic things that you and yourself needed to get here. Why would that be so bad, having everyone pay their fair share of taxes so we can have a government that functions correctly? Well, obviously, government does work for everything, but we all benefit from government services every day.
I'm sorry, no one in this room is going to benefit from 87,000 new IRS agents. Instead, those 87,000 new IRS agents are going to be deployed against small business owners. But I could keep on going with policy examples. I can keep on building it out. But let me just say this. I love markets, but I'm willing to critique markets when I think they're not serving people and they're not serving the nation. I think our overindulgence in free trade fanaticism has been a major mistake over the last 20 or 30 years. I don't worship corporations, but I do think that entrepreneurs and private property rights and people taking risks are a general good for society. And not only does history show this, but common sense logic and material reality shows all this. I can give you more and more examples if you want of policy stuff. That's less actually interesting. The reason I don't go through policy stuff is, again, is that I'm not running for office, right? I don't represent the Republican Party. But if I can build out a worldview that you can agree with, then the policy answers will come naturally, right? So if you understand morals and values, then you could answer the next 1,000
policy questions. I guess for me as a student,
questions.
I care a lot more about policy than what people say. Like what government does is a lot more important to me, and that's why I was confused why your speech was not about policy.
Because, again, I'm not running for office.
I want to ask one more question before I go. I guess for us, there used to be a thing called the middle class, or the idea of a growing and strong middle class.
Yep.
And I feel like for the past 10 years, especially on the right, maybe on the left too, for the more neoliberal left, but the right, that idea is kind of shrunken. I don't think there's a lot of talk in the middle class. Do you view income inequality as a problem?
I totally disagree.
Income inequality, I want to say income inequality being the difference between
let me ask you though,
and the median.
I have a question. Why is it that the wealthiest counties in America all vote on the left?
Because that's where all the how money works and how capitalism works is how all the wealth is where all the people want to be. Like, so Silicon Valley is all the jobs and all that
Why
stuff.
do they vote liberal then if the left...
Well, in what ways they vote liberal? Not on taxes, not on things that I am for.
They vote for Joe Biden, they vote for
Socially,
Nancy
they're left,
Pelosi.
But they're socially left, but they're not economically left. Believe me, if you go to the Bay Area, they are very economically right. Dianne Feinstein is not left, in my opinion. So it may be left socially, but I don't think they're left in my point of view.
Yeah, but so then let me ask you then, why is it that the muscular class in America has shifted right over the last 7 years?
Not according to the midterms. I mean, you guys
Who's you
tanked the
guys?
midterms most
Okay,
recently.
you keep
So,
on saying you guys. I don't represent
Sorry,
the Republican
my
Party.
apologies.
But I just want to critique one of your misguided premises, which is that somehow the right is not representing middle class voters. It's the opposite. Actually, states that are traditionally blue-collar, muscular class, middle-class states are now solid red states. Look at Ohio. Ohio is a state that used to be far left, and now it's more in the right direction. So what is the right actually doing about it? To answer your question, a couple things. We're rejecting neoliberalism. Like, how about this? We shouldn't send $200 billion to Ukraine, and we should instead represent our own people and close our own border. That's number one. Number two is that we should be unafraid to use tariffs and sanctions to say that critical infrastructure and things that matter should be made here in America.
Sure.
Whether the delusion on the left, and I just want to challenge you on this, is that the left has a bunch of people that talk a good game, AOC and Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, but when it really matters, they're nothing more than neoliberal shills that are willing to invade other countries, invite them into our country, and then lie to their voters under the veneer of social liberalism. The populist movement in America that represents real people, muscular class teachers, police officers, and firefighters, it lives on the American right because we listen to our constituents and we're willing to fight for ideas like tariffs, sanctions, closed border, and no more money to Ukraine. The left is shilling for all those things. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Getting to the next one. Thank you.
Can I just ask, is the difference between the mean and median income inequality,
There's
is that a problem
50
to you guys?
people in line.
Income
Thank
inequality.
you.
Is that
Income inequality is a big issue, which is exactly why I support the things that I said. Next question.
Hey, Kirk. My question is sort of a question/compliment. You're a very good public speaker. And I think a lot of people here might struggle with that. What I'm curious is somebody with so little education beyond high school and, just experience in the field, how are you able to so confidently just kind of word vomit, right? You said pretty much every question you've answered has been no answer. You've just kind of said what conservatives want to hear. So really all of your work is not a debate. It's just confirmation bias. So
Want to have a debate?
Sorry?
You want to debate?
No, I'm good. I'm just curious where you learned.
You sure?
Where you learned how to public
I'm a high
speak.
school graduate. You're in college, man. Let's debate. I vomit for a living, you said. Yeah. Come on, let's debate.
No, I'm not here to debate. That's not,
No,
that's not my question.
you're just here to insult me.
Yeah, yeah, I am. You're a hero. Where did you learn how to public speak? Because you're really good at lying out of your ass.
What have I lied about? Name one thing I lied tonight about. Name a second thing. No, name a stat. I said that's wrong.
You said 11 million jobs. You said 50%.
Yes, 11 million jobs are open for blue-collar work according to Mike Rowe and according to 3 independent studies according to the Department of Labor. Name another stat I said that's wrong.
I guess my main point
No,
is...
name a third stat that I said that's wrong.
When you say a stat or you just say numbers, it's helpful usually when you're public speaking to say where you got that information. Because people who disagree with you might not
So give me, no, but you give some examples. Where did I lie or say a stat that's not true?
You need to work on not doing confirmation bias.
Wait, hold on. No, but you come up here and say, oh, how did you with a high school education learn to spew BS? Say one thing I said that was wrong, misleading, unfactual, not rooted in data. One thing.
You're doing it right now.
I'm asking you a question.
I was just making a comment and you're spinning it. That's what you're really good at. That's why I think you're a good
No, you came up here and insulted me. I'm asking you, how have I misled this audience? And you come unprepared, like not with a single data. I thought you'd at least have like one gotcha, man. Like one number, like one thing. 11 million job openings according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics that require muscular labor and require just a 6-month technical training degree. That is true. At the apex, 15,000 people coming across the southern border every single day. I even said it's down a little bit. That is true. What have I said that's incorrect?
Do next. You're good at what you do, but not for the right reasons. That's all I'm saying.
They don't want to debate me because they can't debate me. They can't say one thing I said that's wrong. They can't name one data point. They just come up here and insult. You, my friend, are why we are going to beat you guys historically, because you are afraid to have a debate.
I love Charlie.
Just, it's so amazing, the smugness. How'd you learn to speak like this in word vomit? Oh, what'd I say that's true? Everything. Name one thing. Name another thing. Name another thing. Yeah, you should ask for money back at KU. They're really scamming you, man. You'd think you'd have one little thing. All right.
How will you judge teachers? Because you were talking about like paying bad teachers.
It's a great question. That's a substantive question.
Yeah, because like that's a good idea, right? You want to
So do you know what the Nordic countries do? It's one of the few things they do right, because they can fire teachers almost instantaneously. They let teachers grade teachers. Bad teachers will root out bad teachers very quickly.
Aren't the Nordic countries socialists?
Oh no, they actually have freer economies than we do. Norway, Sweden, Finland are ranked higher on the World Economic Freedom Index.
So we should look like Norway?
Wait, more
That's my argument.
Part of America should look more like Norway, part of it shouldn't. For example,
Why do you sign up for
no,
Sanders?
so for example, how about this? Sweden has full school choice, so you all support that, right? Norway has full school choice. You know that, right?
Yeah, because they're
Okay, so you support school choice now. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
incredibly. I mean, they're taxed like 60%.
That's why I disagree with.
By
By the way, so Norway, Sweden, Finland, they nationalized their oil reserves. I don't agree with that. You know, they also don't have a standing military. I don't agree with that. There's some things we can learn from the Nordic country. There's some things they do abysmally wrong, such as their 60 to 70% tax rate. Such as
wrong?
What?
Why is that wrong?
Because I believe you should have a right to your time and your earnings.
Sweden's also like a majority irreligious country, but you're like all about,
Again, that would be something. That would be something I disagree with. Do I have to nuance my arguments even more? There's some things they do right. There's some things they do wrong.
Entirely lacks nuance. I just want to point that
Okay,
out.
how is this not nuanced? There's some things they do right. There's some things they do wrong.
Well, but
That's
you just
the
equated,
definition
like,
of nuance.
You just said that because we support socialist policies in Norway and Sweden, that we support school choice.
parts-
You just generalized, which is entirely
So
lacks
so
nuance.
tell
I would
me
like you to
so
step
tell
up.
me what you don't support school choice then.
I don't support school choice.
Oh, okay. So then you do not support the Swedish education model. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Got it.
Because I can have a nuanced conversation.
So tell me
and
why
I
you
understand.
think that. Tell me why you think a minority family should not be able to send their kid to a better school in, say, North Houston.
Because all public schools should be funded to the same. Jesus Christ, my dude. Okay. Because. I mean, like all schools. I mean, so you're saying they're better? Why are they better? Okay, they're better because they have higher tax rates. So wealthier people live there, so they have higher taxes that go in, and more money will make the school better.
So
the reason that those minority families want to go to better schools is because those better schools are private and charter schools that are privately funded. Because our public schools are
I'm
not
so glad.
properly funded.
So okay, that it depends on what city and state you're talking about. But if you look at the price per educating a pupil in the state of Texas, a private school will do it for about $8,000 a year. A public school will do it for about $22,000 per year. Yet the student going to that $22,000 a year, it gets absolute crap for it, because the number one metric that matters in education is not class size, it's not funding, it's quality of teachers. Every study internationally will show you it's the quality of teacher you put in the classroom. And
What's the metric for that, though?
How do you create a quality teacher?
Bingo. How do you do that? You pay good teachers more and you fire bad ones. All
How
of
do
you.
the school districts get money?
How can you attract good teachers if you're still paying teachers
I
like
just
40K
said
a
you
year?
pay them more.
Yeah, and you pay
and
them more. Exactly.
Pay them more.
But you're saying
How do you pay?
we're
How do you
paying
pay them
too
more
much.
when you
How do
get?
that money?
You fire bad teachers,
But
and
you
and
just
by
said
the
we're
way,
paying too
you know
much
where a
for
lot of the
it.
government,
But
you know
when you fire bad
where, you know
teachers,
where a lot of the
that
waste is in the
significant
public
cost on
education.
the school
A
to-
lot of the
The
waste.
amount of teachers has to remain the same.
No, it doesn't. That's the thing. Class size can go up because it does. Class size has not been shown as an accurate depiction of a student's likelihood to graduate or not drop out. It's the quality of teacher. A quality teacher can handle a 15-person class to a 25-person class,
but the U.S.
according
is
to
investing in the
according to the
quality.
Brookings the Brookings Institution, which is a left-leaning study.
They actually up the taxing on housing in the areas, and that up housing tax then goes directly towards
No,
teacher salary.
I'm familiar with that.
Then why is it that you're arguing you have to fire the bad teachers instead of incentivizing good teachers?
No, because if you get rid of the waste, you reappropriate the savings towards
But
paying
that
good
only
teachers
works
more.
when there's a stock of well-qualified,
So-
really well-experienced
All right, so
teachers in the United States.
let
and
me
we
tell you
don't
more
have that.
about.
We have a teacher
First of all, we
shortage.
have too many school districts in this country, probably way too many in Texas. I need to look at the numbers. Second, most of the money goes towards administration, not towards actually helping kids. So we have these vice president of deans.
Too many school districts? Or the administration?
Too much towards the administration.
Okay, so over the last 30 years, an objective analysis, I'll talk for Illinois, for example, because I know Illinois quite well, because that's where I'm from and I know the data, is that the amount that they're spending actually towards education of the student, towards administration, the administrative part of education went from 4% to well over 18%. That's an extraordinary increase. I'm sure all of you know there were administrators in your school, maybe not, maybe your school ran perfectly, where they did nothing all day long. They were compliant, they were shuffling papers, and I know all of you have had a bad teacher or 2 or 5 that should not have been involved in teaching, and I'm sure all of you, like me, had a public education teacher that was great, that deserved to be paid more, and was paid the same as a mediocre teacher because of our tenure rules that the public sector teacher unions implemented. So I think that this is more broad-based bipartisan consensus, because I don't think it has to be red or blue. I think it's just more common sense. And yes, I will actually say that we have an obligation to educate our citizens. Whatever the hell you want to call me for saying that, I think we have an obligation to educate people.
So taxing for essential purposes for the greater good of society is good.
Yes.
Okay, so why doesn't that apply
because
to everything else?
So why doesn't that apply to education?
I just said it does on a hyper-local level, because it's the obligation of first and foremost the family to educate, secondly the community, not a federal government to educate citizens.
But it's a hyper-local level, doesn't that disenfranchise people who are in a very poor area?
That's exactly why you should have a voucher system to let them go to better areas, which is something that Democrats bitterly oppose.
But then you're just depleting communities of people, and you're not enriching the community.
So Florida is a great...
the people that geographically aren't able to go to a different school.
Or that don't get the
Okay,
voucher.
so you allow a market to happen. So what happens is the bad schools will then have 1 of 2 options. They can improve or stay neutral, actually have 3 options, or get worse. And you've seen in Florida, when Florida implemented a voucher system, they were like ranked 38th in education. Now the last study shows them 7th, the 12th,
yeah,
the
because
3rd.
the cream of those students left the public school
So
system.
you agree? So let's
significantly worse.
have a moment.
The value of the private school system and the value of scholarship.
Well, the price per pupil to educate is far lower in a private school than a public school. So you have to ask yourself why. Why is a private school able to do it better for less? Why is that?
It's not better for less.
Well,
I
mean,
charge $30,000 to $40,000.
no, but the price per individual to actually educate in a private school, like a Catholic school, for example, in Texas is anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 a year. For a public school, it's a lot more than that. I'm sorry, what? But you have to ask yourself the question: why is it that private schools are able to do it for less?
Wait, I have a question though. So you're saying we need to pay teachers more, but
Yes.
we already spend too much, you say. So how can we pay?
You know, well, first of all, it's because of the public sector teacher unions that are artificially boosting these salaries for teachers that don't teach and that are mediocre, and the good teachers not able to earn more.
But also imposing these kinds of requirements on teachers only detracts from their ability to teach.
Say that again.
Imposing these kinds of STAR testing requirements on teachers.
No, I don't think. I totally
ability to
agree.
teach.
So how do you find bad teachers? You do what the Nordic countries do. You have teachers, grade teachers. It's worked
What
wonderfully.
do you think about Taylor Swift being a Democrat?
I think she's a fool.
Okay, no, elaborate on why is she a fool? Because I'm sorry, the alt-right was up her.
I'm sorry, what?
The alt-right was up for a real long time.
Who's the alt-right? Am I part of the alt-right?
I don't know.
Okay.
But you know what I mean. You know the 4chan people. They were like, she's the Aryan queen. So what are your thoughts about Taylor Swift being a Democrat?
I think she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Do you still listen to Shake It Off?
I never have.
You've never listened.
I've probably heard it once or twice. It's not exactly. I'm a big Kanye West fan. I'm a big Kanye West fan.
It's,
Wait, going back to the school teacher
Yes.
pay thing, so I guess the average teacher salary is between $40,000 to $50,000.
Depends on where you go. So
for the state of Texas, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say is a good target for good teachers?
80 to 100,000 a year.
And you think we can achieve that with property taxes
Because
the way they are right now, and think teachers?
Maybe not. And again, if there was a market, so certain charter schools, certain ones pay their teachers in Texas upwards to $60,000 to $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
Some.
Yeah.
So would you support?
And within the public school
I'll get
system,
to this.
within the public school system, if you're a good teacher, you can eventually attain up to 70 to 80K. But the problem is, and
that'd be
I
great.
know this with a lot of good teachers, is that they love teaching, but they're not incentivized to teach because they're not getting paid.
That's exactly right. I totally agree. So we have very smart, driven people that are driven away from teaching because we don't pay teachers enough. Because there is, I have yet to hear an objectively good argument that you should pay every teacher the same.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's going to be certain teachers that work harder, that get there earlier. I've experienced it, that
Anyone
are smarter.
In any job, if you
Right,
do all the
exactly.
same,
You
the
should
better
have a
one should be paid
meritocracy
more.
of some sort. Now the question is, how do you grade it? Well, again,
And the question is also implementation. So
Totally.
I mean, it's great to say that, like, yeah, I want that to happen, but if you look at like the metrics right now, we can't even manage a system like this, which is currently flawed.
So that's why a
People on the
market
left
works.
and right would
Yes.
agree.
So a market would be a voucher system where parents become the indicator of the market, because parents know best. I think we all agree more times than not. Maybe you had a bad
But
experience
at
in
the
your life.
same
I don't want to
time-
speak for you.
At the same time,
But-
like these individual parents, I think a lot of what the argument is about like disenfranchised communities or whatever is that individual parents sometimes don't have the resources to pay for these really high class schools.
No doubt.
Well,
So
also,
if you're-
I live in a county. It's the smallest county in Texas. We don't
Wow.
we don't have any sort of charter school. And we're also the richest county in Texas, but like our public
Because of
schools
oil
are-
and gas or what?
I think it's just really tiny, and there's a bunch of like.
I'm guessing oil and gas if it's a small.
No, there's no oil or gas.
Oh, okay. Well,
But anyway, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that being said, there is no charter school, and our public schools like aren't great. So like when you
How
make
many
that
districts
argument-
do you have, though, in
We
your-
only have one. It's Rockwall County. We have
Okay.
Rockwall ISD. So
The rural argument is tough.
it's not rural though. We're east of Dallas. We are a suburb.
And you're the smallest county in
We are the
Texas.
smallest county. We're
Do
north of
you think your school district works?
No.
Okay. So you're not rural, but you're isolated. I'm trying to
No,
understand.
we're
it.
not isolated.
Well, then, yeah, school choice would work just
We're the
fine in your
richest-
area.
But we don't have charter schools, so I don't understand how this argument is working.
Well, the argument is to build.
The argument is to incentivize the construction and creation of more of them. And so when you have people waiting outside of the line in the Bronx, black families that wait for days to try to have a chance to get literally a lottery ball to be able to get their kid to go to a charter school, you know our public education system is a joke and a disaster. And so the question should not be how to throw more money towards a broken system. It's where is education working in America? Where is it working? Well, there are certain schools that do it really, really, really well, and they do it well for less. And those are charter schools, and those are private schools. Some private
That's
schools.
true.
There are some public schools, but usually the public schools that do it really well are way overfunded. Like the public school I went to is one of the top schools in America. We pay our teachers like $150,000 a year. It's insane, and we got new equipment and new technology.
You're also making
it's
the
stupid.
argument. You're also making the argument that like we need to pay the teachers more. We need to like
Yes.
get rid of bad teachers, which I'm listening to. But my school district, if you go on the Texas Tribune website, you can look up the salaries. And in my school district, the teachers are paid really, 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 really well. That being said,
What does that mean? Like, what does well mean? Like, I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, it's
Give me-
Texas,
give me a
so,
number.
so like 70,000 as well. In
Okay.
Texas.
I mean, so
Um,
maybe that's why. Does your school district do well relatively?
Well, like at UT, there's like I would say UT is the best university in Texas.
I would probably agree with
besides Rice, it's the best public university.
I would agree with that.
But that being said, that's dramatic. Anyway, but that being said, shoot, I lost my car. I'm getting there. That being said, there's only like 3 people per year that go to UT, whereas people from the Woodlands or Plano, there's like a ton of people.
Yeah, but
here.
that's only one metric, I guess you could say, for the excellence
Okay,
of a
so-
school, right? I'd say graduation rate. You know.
We have a high graduation.
Okay,
rate.
there you go. That's good. How many students in your graduating class ended up going to 4-year university?
I can't.
Those are the numbers you got.
I'm saying it's really low. I'm saying our teachers are paid well, so
That's a metric. I don't
But
think.
like, do you support like people going to college even if that's
I mean,
not necessarily a fruitful result?
I'm a living example that not everyone needs to go to college. so-
Everybody should.
No. I'm a living example that not everyone needs to go to college. Trust me. Yeah.
Because I mean, right now, there's a lot of people that are like pushing that when.
No, I think we
vocational
need more
schools-
2 years in vocational training and more community colleges. I don't think 4-year universities are always the solution.
Do you think we should provide free education in colleges like the Swedish countries do?
Nothing is free. They pay for it in high taxes, so no, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, but all of their citizens have to educate.
I'm sorry?
All of the people go to college and have better outcomes and income because of this.
So if you think something is broken and expensive now, just wait until it's free. I mean, the problem with higher education
It's
is,
not broken and expensive there. It's free for everybody and it's working well.
well, they have a totally nationalized higher education model. We don't. We have private colleges.
Public school
We have. I'm sorry.
The public school is free, and you don't propose charging people to go to school.
Public,
so why,
public
why
school
just-
is not free. You pay it in property taxes.
Yeah, you
okay,
pay,
so
pay for everything in taxes.
no, that's what I'm
Everything
saying.
is
So
free.
stop saying it's free.
Yeah.
There's a
You
cost
just
of
said
entry.
when it's free, then it
No,
goes
I know
to
when
shit.
you. So if you think that higher, so for example, Bernie Sanders, let's just take that for example.
it's going to be one of the biggest handouts to higher education you can ever imagine. So let's talk about higher education. First of all, we ask our high school seniors, where are you going to school, not why are you going to school. That's ridiculous. We have way too many kids going to four-year colleges. I'm sure all of you that are juniors and seniors have seen kids drop out of this place that ended up going to community college, ended up going back to another school. They should never have been here in the first place. Well, that's one reason, or maybe some it's just what that wasn't right for them. I'm sure all of you could think of one or two examples, maybe not. I know plenty from my own personal experience. Number two, we have a federal student loan industry that is more focused on getting all of you to borrow the most amount of money as possible, as quickly as possible. FAFSA is totally screwed up. It's totally ass backwards. Third of all, the administration in UT earns way too much money. It's way too big. That could be condensed by probably half. And I don't even know the data, and I'd be challenged.
Audit UT.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. Audit everything. Transparency is always the answer. That shouldn't be political. And the third thing, the third biggest problem in higher education, I'm sure all of you are being forced to take classes that have no relevancy to your degree or to your major. College should be done in 3 years, not 4 years. This is something we can learn from Sweden. Sweden does college in 3 years. That's another thing they do right. Yeah, England does it in 3 years. Germany does it in 3 years. The idea that you have to have 4 years by mandate is ridiculous.
Bizarre.
And all of you could save 25% off the top on your college experience by doing it in 3 years instead of 4. You'd save 25% on housing, 25% on everything by having a whole extra year to enter the workforce. So make college 3 years, and I think that's something that both parties should be able to agree with. You do all that before you make it free, and then you can start to have the conversation, have more federal mandates and subsidies. But the reason education gets more expensive, the reason higher education has gone up by 312% over the last 10 years, and all of you are feeling it one way or the other, is that we keep pumping cheap federal dollars into this system, and there's no accountability whatsoever where the money's being spent, the classes you have to take, anything whatsoever, and you're just being forced. You got to take these classes. Well, I'm a engineering major. Still, you have to take 5 humanities. What? Like, why are you forcing me to borrow money to take classes that have no relevancy to my degree or major? If you want to take them voluntarily, but those are some things we have to talk about with higher education.
Yes, but you said you have an issue with the government not representing the will of the people. So if you personally have an issue with that, then why do you support him if that is not the will of the people?
Right. So will and majority are two different things. Right? So are we a democracy? You're not here. Are we a democracy?
Should we be?
No, but are we?
Why should we not be? Is that not a core fundamental point of American society?
No. Has democracy appeared anywhere in the Constitution?
No.
I mean, that is genuinely a valid point. However, your point of the government should represent the people, why is it that democracy is not in the Constitution, or why is it that you believe that the will of the majority is not as important as the will of the minority if your issue specifically is the government should represent the people better?
Good question. So we believe in the Electoral College. Why? Because Kansas deserves a voice. Because Missouri deserves a voice. And it's the most important way I could distill it is the union we have is the states created it, the federal government didn't create it. So the kind of price of admission is every state gets 2 senators, congressmen based on population, and then electoral votes based on that population. So you kind of get a mix of both. And it's also this tension. And I would ask the question, if we abolished the Electoral College, do you think that the needs, wants, and interests of Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, North, South Dakota, Montana would be taken as seriously as New York and California? That would be my question to you.
Do you believe that some citizens are more valuable than others?
Why is she
Because in our
asking a
current
question
system,
back?
some people's votes hold more sway than others because people in like Wyoming who have smaller populations have more say than places like here in Missouri and Kansas. Why is this acceptable if it's, again, your issue is the will of the people?
Because we're not a democracy. So a democracy is simple majoritarianism. So let me give you an example. In a democracy, by up or down vote, you could say, I want to enslave black people. A constitutional republic says, no, you're going to have to go through a process to do that. So let me ask you a question. Do you think the majority, the will of the people, could ever be wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So the founding fathers knew it could almost assuredly be wrong, right? So the system of a republic versus a democracy is it has to be slow and arduous and intentional because it has a preference on liberty, right, not on free stuff. And so over a period of time, how do you best protect liberty? Well, you got to spread over all the representation over space and time, right? So you do it over a lot of states, a lot of square miles, a lot of acreage, and it takes a lot of time to take over the federal government, right? You have to win an election, and then an election, and an election. It's not impossible. We eradicated slavery. We gave women the right to vote. So it's possible to get change done. But the Founding Fathers were less concerned about getting progress done really quickly, and they were more concerned with the government doing bad stuff too quickly. Does that make sense?
But that is not what you said. You said that your specific problem is the government does not do the will of the people. Why is it that your will and what you want is more important than that of the majority?
Well, it's not my will, it's the framers and the system we have. But to answer your question, I believe the best way to determine the will of the people is through states' rights and states' directives.
True.
If Kansas wants to say, hey, we can have decentralized gun laws or school choice, God bless Kansas. And so the question is not, is national will also versus state will, right? So we have to recognize that the values of someone in Kansas, in Manhattan, Kansas, is a lot different than the values of someone in Manhattan, New York. It's a lot different. And so through a democracy, it'd say, hey, the people of New York City want to have firearms confiscated. I don't think that dog's going to hunt in Manhattan, Kansas. Well, Kansas State University, so I don't know. But it allows, answer your question, it allows people that disagree with one another to live in the same nation. You see, a Republican-style government, small r, allows people that might agree on almost nothing to still engage in self-government while still having a national project to participate in. So to clarify it even more, it is a question of the consent to the governed. If it was just a democracy, it would be an up or down vote on every single person, and that's it. The Founding Fathers saw that fail time and time again. Athenian democracy. People just vote themselves stuff. So they said, we have to have some sort of system that realizes that if men were angels, government would not be necessary, but men are not angels, so we got to create some sort of government. Federalist 51, as Madison said. So we got to figure this out. So government is necessary, but we don't want to have too big a government, and people are just going to vote themselves stuff all the time. So how do we do that? Well, local is better than national, but you got to have some sort of a national influence, and so they created the great balance between Jeffersonian and Hamiltonian type philosophy, as we know, is the U.S. Constitution. And the one thing they all agreed on, though, is human nature. They knew that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that people were likely to abuse it. So I would just kind of counter by saying the will of the people can be best expressed through a multi-state project. For example, I believe an election is much healthier and much more representative by requiring candidates to go to Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and not just spending time on the coast. Because you know why? It might seem as if, oh, we don't need those flyover states. We don't need them. First of all, that's arrogant, prideful, and wrong. How exactly are you going to feed your family, and where do you think the breadbasket of the world comes from? The founders saw ahead, and final thing I'll say is this, is that it was Hamilton, or it was Madison that said, we cannot have the tyranny of the cities over the farmers. And that's built into our system. Thank you for being here tonight. I got to get to the next question. Thank you.
Hi. So as someone who claims to be such a bastion of freedom of speech, why do you call the protesters outside terrorists, outside of, say, one broken window?
Well, it's more than one broken window. Assaulting cops, spray painting, the death threats that they throw at me, the violent intimidation, the graffiti.
But that's not, don't you think it's bigoted to call all protesters who are outside as terrorists when a handful of minority might be representing some
Wait, why would it be bigoted? They're mostly white liberals without jobs.
Sorry?
Why is it bigoted? They're mostly white liberals without jobs.
But you're calling all protesters terrorists?
I'm calling Antifa out there that are anonymizing their identity, sending death threats to my family, smashing windows, and spray painting the campus the entire week leading up to this terrorist. Yes, I absolutely stand by that.
But so that wouldn't. A lot of them are just college students who don't agree with the point of view that you're propagating.
Well, maybe they should have come to the front of the line and asked a question like you, and not acted like somebody in a third world country where they settle their differences with gang violence.
But just to be sure, those people who are there to register their protest aren't terrorists.
Okay, the terrorist definition is a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. Did they do that?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think so.
Wait, hold on.
A
A person who unlawfully violent, window smashing, graffiti, assault
Not
against
all of
police
them.
officers.
Not all of them.
Hold on a second. The leaders, they cover for themselves. And by the way, only a small of them are isolated, and they're all in one big black block. And don't try to don't try to gaslight the people here or the people watching online. There's hundreds of them. They're working in a coordinated network with coordinated tactics. And these are not just quote-unquote college kids. There's obviously somebody behind this with funding and sophistication, with quasi-paramilitary tactics. And let me ask you a question. Why is it that when people go into the United States Capitol and take a selfie, they're called terrorists by our government, but when you start to terrorize and smash windows and put violent threats and death threats to me, it's somehow bigoted to call them terrorists?
So first of all, it wasn't a coordinated effort. As someone who was there, I just knew that there was this event happening and that there would be a protest in order to register our point of view. I was not part of any coordinated effort, and neither were a lot of the other people who were there. We don't appreciate the label of being terrorist, especially a lot of us are from countries where
you shouldn't appreciate the
so.
label or the activity. Why don't you come here and say, I'm pretty damn embarrassed that people that agree with me resort to violence instead of going up here and trying to lecture me about calling them terrorists?
Absolutely. But this isn't about...
You're making a fool of yourself. Why don't you go out and talk to your buddies and tell them to stop trying to shut down our event?
So I don't know why your response is always a whataboutism. I mean, I'm just asking if you
I'm
take
asking
back
questions
that they're not
you can't
terrorists.
answer ism.
What? I've answered each of your questions. I'm just saying
No,
that
let me ask you a
not
question.
everyone is
Let
part of
me
a
ask you a question.
coordinate
Will you publicly condemn the violence done in the political spirit outside by the people that you were protesting alongside? Will you do that right now?
It depends what you're referring to.
Smashing of windows and
I don't
assaulting
think
police officers.
Breaking windows is a good idea.
Assaulting police officers. Do you condemn
No one
that?
assaulted police officers.
You
I
what?
was there. No one assaulted police
That's
officers.
lie.
I
That's
was
not
there.
true. Throwing eggs and objects at police officers is a legal definition of assault, no matter how much you try to gaslight it or spin it.
If I can just, without resorting to whataboutism, using your definition of terrorism, if the police uses unjust violence against civilians, should that also count as terrorism?
Absolutely not. But first of all, your definition of unjust...
I'm just taking your definition of
No.
terrorism.
Let me read this again. Unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. Antifa doesn't just do this here. They did this in Sacramento and assaulted one of our Turning Point USA employees
I'm not Antifa.
and sent one of them to the hospital. Antifa, oh, by the way, the same buddies, the same tactics, the same coordination, the same wardrobe, the same language, the same signs. You know what they did 2 weeks ago? They arson and firebombed an entire police training headquarters in Georgia in massive coordinated fashion. And so right now what we are seeing is the rise of left-wing domestic violent extremism, and the failure to acknowledge or admit it means that you are blinded by ideology. Thank you for being here tonight.
Sure.
We'll get to the next one.
How do you feel about the current state of the economy and this whole theory of immaculate disinflation? If you're familiar with the term.
Say that again.
Immaculate disinflation.
Well, we're not living through that.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Yes.
And where's your proof that we aren't exactly?
Are you talking disinflation?
Yes.
That we actually we're not seeing a surge in prices?
No, disinflation means the inflation rate is decreasing over time.
Well, so there is some evidence to show that, for example, televisions, iPhones.
Specific products. That's not an illustration of all inflation, though.
No, I was going to agree with you that.
Okay.
But if you just go to a grocery store, eggs are far more expensive than they were 2 years ago. You don't have to overthink it. I mean, the college degree here at this university, what is it per year, guys?
30,000.
How much?
They've been
10 in state, 30,000 out of state. Yeah, 10 years ago, I bet it was 18,000 out of state, right? So
yes, but they've been trying to raise the Cal State tuition for quite some time, even before inflation spiked to its current levels or previous levels about a year ago. They've just been delaying it for quite some time. So
yeah,
it's not exactly.
We're living through a decades-long inflation surge, and the best evidence you could see it either in the artificial boosting of profit-earning ratios. Go ahead.
Even during Trump's administration, inflation was actually quite low, so that's not
No, it was low then, but
true.
It's not low right now.
Yes, but why was it low then, would you say?
Well, because we had economic growth, and we weren't borrowing $2 to $3 trillion a year.
We actually were. We were borrowing quite a bit of money.
We were borrowing about $1 trillion a year.
Still quite a bit.
So we're borrowing about triple that right now.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
I think that's how the math works
so
out.
Triple in the law of big numbers is a big deal. So borrowing $800 billion, not excusable. Borrowing $2.5 trillion,
morally reprehensible.
Morally, why exactly morally is there
Well,
a distinction between 1 and 3 trillion? Very arbitrary.
Because everyone here is going to have to pay off that debt, and that dollar that you think is going to have value is decreasing by the day.
True.
Whether you're pro-choice or Democrat.
But inflation is something that's going to occur no matter what.
Can I finish? Okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. Inflation is not a guaranteed human norm. That's not true, but I'll get to that in a second. Every single person here, it will be harder than ever for you to own a home. So inflation is immoral because you're going to enter into a housing market where everything costs 3 times as much in the housing market than it did a decade ago. You will not be able to afford a down payment, let alone even be able to build the capital necessary for other goods and services that you might want to build wealth. And you know who does benefit is your parents' generation and baby boomers, no offense, that do own their assets and you won't. And so, secondly, inflation is a choice. It's not built into the human experience.
The human experience, sure, but the economic system, especially a capitalist economic system, it definitely is. How would you try to achieve 0% inflation?
0% inflation?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want 0% inflation.
So then it is built in.
Inflation...
And it is a necessary evil.
No, I said I wouldn't want it. Okay. Moderate inflation is good for money velocity and for growth.
Yes.
But you need to manage that versus the growth rate, right? So this goes back to Milton Friedman's idea of the Chicago monetarism. You can laugh all you want.
Friedman? Yeah, all right.
Okay. What's so funny about Milton Friedman? The fact he's the greatest economist of the 20th century, or
qualify? That's I don't know. I wouldn't say he's exactly that.
So you're more like a John Maynard Keynes guy. So yeah.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
no. I just take a more broad approach than specifically
so we
Milton
don't
Friedman.
need to have a central bank. We do have a central bank.
Okay. Bold claim. I'll follow you though.
You don't need to have a central bank.
I used to be very against the Federal Reserve as well.
Okay, I'm just saying you don't need to have one, but we choose to have one. The central bank has been overly politicized to try to stop, let's just say, natural economic cycles from occurring. Both administrations, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, have leaned on the central bank to use cheap money as a way to try to keep the good times flowing and the good times going.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's definitely for sure.
So we don't agree. Well, we don't disagree.
Yeah, but here's the other thing I would say.
I gotta say, your protesters are kind of weak here, guys.
Aren't
I expected more out of them, right?
They didn't seem to have the energy to get all
I know.
the
I
front.
thought they'd have more, Yeah, I like it. Please keep going, yeah.
I will say, though, going back to the mortgage rates, as you were saying, I would say that probably has a lot more to do with private equity buying up homes than the inflation rate.
Well, hold on. There's 2 parts to that. I'm not talking just about mortgage. Interest rates are up. I'm talking about just the asset price itself.
That too. I would say it's a lot more related to private equity buying up homes.
But why is private equity doing that? Because they have so much cheap money that we've put into the system, they don't know what to do with it. Now, I think we could agree, actually, there should be laws against BlackRock coming in and buying single-family homes and renting them back. You should not be a society of renters. It's bad for society.
Yes.
So we can agree on that. I say that as a conservative. It's bad for the human experience and for generational flourishing. But when you open up the guzzle of cheap money, which we have done, especially post-COVID, there's a price to that. And the price is that your currency gets weaker. And we're seeing that right now.
Yes. So would you say that it was actually necessary in order to get out of the huge recession we experienced during the pandemic
No, I think we should have just opened up the economy. We never should have locked down the country. So we never should have borrowed the $6 trillion. We never should have done the stimulus stuff. It hurt every single one of you. It increased suicide rates, depression, anxiety, fiscal problems, economic problems, political problems.
I could definitely agree with that to some extent. But would you say even in, say, 2009, lowering the interest rates to 0 in that sense, was that
Well, we didn't
necessary?
go to 0. We didn't. We went down, believe it or not. We went to 5%. COVID, we went to near 0.
Yes.
But no, I have a contrarian view on 2008. I think we should have let the banks fail.
Ooh,
and I think we should have. I think we actually should have allowed the market to solve it, not to have socialism for the rich and brutal capitalism for the working class.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so
totally agree with
I
that.
think that Wells Fargo, Goldman, I think that Lehman and the big banks that failed should have had to actually climb themselves out, or you destroyed a moral hazard is what you did, and 0 executives went to prison. I agree with Elizabeth Warren on this. None of these robber barons that did what they did in 08 served federal prison time. Meanwhile, and I will use a political statement to contrast it, grandmas that went into the Capitol on January 6th and took selfie videos are in federal prison. You ask me who's a bigger threat to democracy? Wall Street executives that bankrupted our economy in 2008 are a bigger threat to our country than people that walked into the Capitol building and took a selfie.
Now, let me ask you this. I don't know if my memory served me correctly, but who was... did Steve Mnuchin serve under the Trump administration?
Yeah, he was from Government Sachs.
Did he serve under the Trump administration?
That's right, yeah.
So why would Trump invite someone like that who should probably be in federal prison into his administration?
I have a lot of personnel disagreements. I love Trump, but I think
you love Trump.
Love Trump.
Why would you love? Why would? So
do we love Trump, everybody?
So to ask a broader question, why would you love any politician? They have a job to do. Why be emotionally attached in that sense?
And I don't say this like lightly. I do have a friendship with him. I've gotten to know him over a couple years.
Okay.
So
and
disclosing
bias.
100% biased. And so I also think he's whether you hate him or love him, he's a once in 100 year.
But why would you hate him or love him? He just has a job to do.
Well,
right?
I also love what he did as country.
Okay.
As president for the country. So.
Would you say though that you're probably more of a fiscal conservative?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably his borrowing was one of the two. So 3 things, if you want to just be full disclosure, that I think President Trump could have done better, and I think he will do better. Fiscal deficit spending. Okay.
Why do you think he will do better?
Let me get to all 3. Okay.
Okay.
COVID and certain personnel choices. Okay.
Okay.
Those are the 3 things, and and I could list 100 accomplishments. Those are 3 things I think that the first administration, that wasn't their best.
Yeah.
Why it could have been better? I think that he's got the world against him, and if he becomes president again, which the 50-50 shot he will, he's going to set the world on fire.
I would say he's a little bit too egotistical and emotional to really counter the world being against him. He seems to react a little too emotionally to these kinds of things.
I don't want to get too deep into it, but you're not gonna convince me on negative Trump stuff. So
okay, interesting. So your mind isn't necessarily that open. Doesn't this change my mind?
You could try.
Okay.
I mean, you're not gonna.
But didn't you just say kind of up front that
I'm open-minded to hear it. I'm just saying you're not going to change my mind on that Trump stuff.
Okay. So then, what is it that's leading you to think that Trump is going to have better decision making in this next term, specifically when it comes to borrowing? Because he is going to
necessity. I mean, I don't know, and honestly, there's little evidence except the fact that we're going to have a debt crisis, the likes of which the country's never seen. And he's going to have to address it. We need to have severe cuts in the federal budget.
So would you say that the downgrading of America's credit rating is more related to our national debt or the inability to handle it in a mature way?
More both, but more just the debt itself is. I mean, we now owe more than we're worth as a country. So I want to get to other questions because you've had some time. But final question. I want to be respectful. But
so I guess. If you think that that's an issue that we have more debt than say our current income?
Well, we do.
Well, yeah, but if you would
just
say
the value of the country.
Of course, we control our own currency, and our currency is
Are you a
the number one reserve
guy? So
okay,
so
it's the number one reserve. So that gives us a lot of wiggle room.
So it's decreasing. It used to be 75% of the world's reserve currency status 20 years ago. Now it's 55%.
I would say.
Do you know about BRICS? You know BRICS, right? BRICS,
yeah, I do.
BRICS is creating an alternative.
I think they're
dollar.
paper tiger.
Okay, I actually hope you're right.
I don't believe that India, China, South Africa, and Russia could ever work together to create their own unified currency.
I just hope we're not too prideful.
Definitely a paper tiger.
Thank you.
Okay, this was really incredible to watch. The entire clip was amazing. Like from the guy who supports, should I use trans? Charlie actually dismantled him. Charlie roasted him from start to the end. Then the ladies who were in front that do not know what accountability really means, Charlie actually taught them some lessons about what accountability really means. Then every single one of them, Charlie roasted them from start to the end. Or the students who came to him about education, he was proving to them that private education has a very high value in a society, that students really don't have to go to college. That is a true example of it. Every single one of them, Charlie actually roasted them. To the guy who believed in democracy, Charlie said, America is not... we don't practice democracy in America, 100%. And it's hard for some people to believe because in our constitution, there's nothing called democracy in there. Some people still don't want to believe it because they feel like we are trying practicing it. Followed by the other guy who is in a part of a Antifa group that actually was stoning the cops' eggs and vandalizing windows and also some different type of assaults to the police. Actually destroyed him. Then to this guy who, should I say, who do not believe in capitalism, said a lot of sense, who do not actually love or like Donald Trump, Charlie actually roasted every single one of them from start to the end, giving them proof. This is something about Charlie that is very distinguished and very unique, is that whenever he's roasting you or dismantling you or educating you, he always gives you proof, show you evidence every single time. The guy who came out and tell him that it was word vomiting, how dare you say that to Charlie? Tell him one stat that is wrong. You can't say anything. A lot of these people, this left wing, they are mostly like this. They just feel like you are wrong, but they don't have evidence to back that up that you're wrong. Even if you're showing them stats that what you're saying is right, they'll keep on saying that you're wrong. I love how Charlie handled every single one of them in a very respectful manner, and at the same time, give them evidence and reasons to believe that what he's saying is true. And if you go fact check Charlie right now, you see that's true. I love this man a lot. This is Charlie. This is total rebranding. I'm going to be wearing this this hoodie for all my videos. I also have other shirts and also hoodies about him. It's basically Charlie. I really love this man. I'm giving him massive respect. Comment down below what you think about this video. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video as many as you can. Subscribe to our channel, guys. We're going to see you guys in the next video. Make sure you stay safe.